What happens when America's country sweetheart walks into daytime television's most opinionated battlefield and refuses to play by its rules? When Reba McEntire, calm, composed, and full of heart, sits across from Joy Behar, the queen of sharp tongues, and what's supposed to be a friendly talk about unity turns into a verbal showdown that shakes the nation. What follows isn't just a TV clash. It's the moment kindness meets sarcasm, faith meets ego, and millions of viewers realize some lines once crossed can't ever be taken back. Trust me, this talk show won't disappoint you. It'll be worth every second of your time. It was supposed to be just another Wednesday on The View. The cameras rolled, the theme music faded, and the hosts smiled into their lenses like they'd done 1,000 times before. Whoopi opened the show with her usual calm authority, cracking a light joke about politics before introducing the day's special guest. Reba McEntire, the country legend whose songs had defined generations. The audience cheered. Reba walked out in a simple red blazer, waving that southern charm lighting up the room. She wasn't there to promote an album. This time she wanted to talk about something heavier: unity, faith, and finding a little kindness in a divided country. But from the second she sat down, the air felt strange. Joy Behar leaned back, eyes narrow, lips curled in that familiar smirk that always meant trouble was coming. "So, Reba," Joy began, voice light but laced with sarcasm, "people in the middle of the country tend to be a little sensitive when it comes to politics, don't you think?" The audience laughed, a short, uneasy laugh that filled the silence too quickly. Reba smiled back politely, but her eyes told a different story: calm, controlled. But behind them there was a flicker of something. Steel. "I think folks are just tired of being talked down to," she said. The words landed like a stone dropped into still water. The laughter stopped. Joy tilted her head, pushing harder. "Come on, Reba. Nobody's talking down to anyone. We're just discussing ideas." Reba's voice stayed low, steady, almost too calm. "There's a difference between discussion and dismissal, Joy." You know that Joy's smirk deepened. "Oh, so now I'm dismissive?" Reba didn't blink. "I didn't say that. But if the shoe fits, maybe it's time to take a look at it." The crowd gasped. You could feel the tension building, second by second. Whoopi glanced toward the control booth, her expression saying everything. "This is about to blow." Joy leaned forward, her tone tightening. "Reba, this is The View. We talk about real issues here. You can't just hide behind country charm." Reba's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed quiet, the kind of quiet that cuts deeper than shouting. "I don't hide, Joy. I just don't mock people for what they believe in." A long silence hung over the table. Then Joy chuckled under her breath. "Oh, we're doing that today, huh?" Reba leaned back, folded her hands, and said evenly, "We're doing truth, Joy." You brought it up. That was the moment the tone of the show changed. The laughter, the smiles, the morning chatter, all of it vanished. The tension snapped like a live wire now. Joy leaned forward. Her tone, once playful, was now as sharp as a knife. "So what, Reba?" she said, her eyebrows arched in that familiar mix of mockery and disbelief. "Hollywood's the big bad wolf now? Out to eat up poor little America?" Reba didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. She just gave a half smile, calm, deliberate, the kind that said she'd heard it all before. "If the boot fits, Joy," she replied, her voice smooth as glass, "wear it." The audience gasped, half in shock, half in awe. A few people clapped. Others froze, unsure if they were supposed to. The air inside the studio felt heavier now, the kind of silence that hums before thunder. Joy's laughter came next, high, nervous, and a little too forced. "You sound like one of those people who think we're trying to erase your way of life." Reba's eyes locked onto hers, steady and unshaken. "Not erase, Joy," she said slowly, every word cutting clean. "Replace. Respect with ridicule. Faith with mockery." The last word hit like a hammer. Mockery. It hung in the air, cold and unmovable. For a full 3 seconds, no one said a thing. Even Whoopi glanced toward the control room, her lips pressed tight. Reba leaned in, her tone quiet but burning with conviction. "You can joke about a lot of things, Joy, But don't pretend it's humor when what you really mean is contempt. Joy shifted in her chair, her smirk faltering just enough for the cameras to catch it. Reba didn't look angry. She looked disappointed. And somehow that stung even more. The audience could feel the heat rising, even through the television screen. Joy Behar leaned in, her elbows on the table, voice dripping with sarcasm, so thick it almost echoed. "Oh, please, Reba," she scoffed, her tone half mocking, half angry. "Singing about Jesus and tractors doesn't make you a philosopher." The insult hung in the air like a slap. Reba's chair creaked as she straightened her back, her calm turning razor sharp. "And sneering at people doesn't make you enlightened," she shot back. For a moment no one moved. You could almost hear the heartbeat of the room. Fast, heavy, real. The laughter that usually filled the set was gone. Whoopi's eyes flicked between them, but neither woman blinked. Joy smirked again, trying to regain her rhythm. "You really think you can sit here and tell me what respect looks like?" Reba leaned forward, voice low, steady, and cold as stone. "No, Joy. I'm showing you that's when the spark hit the gasoline." "You say this show stands for women," Reba continued, her words measured but shaking with emotion. "But you only mean your kind of women." The audience erupted. Cheers, gasps, a few stunned laughs. The noise felt like a wave crashing over the set. Joy's jaw locked tight. Her voice came out brittle. "Don't preach to me about feminism." Reba didn't back down. "Then stop pretending to own it." The crowd exploded again, half in shock, half in approval. It was the kind of exchange that daytime TV wasn't built to handle. Raw, real, and dangerously unscripted. For a brief second, the two women just stared at each other. No smiles, no jokes. Just two worlds colliding on live television. And everyone watching, in the studio, at home, online, knew they'd just witnessed the moment the view lost control. The studio felt like it had stopped breathing. "Off camera," a producer whispered urgently. "Cut to break. Cut to break." But no one dared. Everyone knew. You don't interrupt television lightning. Joy leaned back, forcing a laugh that didn't sound real. "This isn't the Grand Ole Opry, honey," she said, her tone sharpening with every syllable. "We do real talk here." Reba didn't blink. Her voice came smooth, almost gentle, but it cut deep. "Then talk real, Joy. Because right now you sound rehearsed." The audience reacted like a single body. A ripple of gasps, whispers, a nervous clap that quickly died out. Even Joy froze for half a second, her mouth half open, unsure whether to fire back or swallow her pride. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. For the first time all morning, Joy Behar looked rattled. Whoopi leaned forward, her tone careful, soft. "Ladies, maybe let's take a breath," she said. But even her voice trembled, like she knew words alone couldn't cool the fire. Reba sat still, eyes fixed, breathing steady. Joy's laughter, once her armor, faltered into silence. The tension wasn't just awkward now. It was personal. And in that silence, every viewer at home could feel it. Something in that studio had broken. Not a set piece, not a microphone. Something deeper. Something between respect and pride, burned down live on television. Reba leaned forward, elbows on the table, her voice barely above a whisper, but the kind that somehow filled the entire room. "I came here to talk about heart, Joy," she said, her words slow, deliberate. "But maybe heart doesn't trend anymore." Joy rolled her eyes, forcing a smirk, but something in her expression faltered. A flicker of doubt, maybe even guilt. She tried to laugh it off, but it came out thin, brittle. The silence that followed wasn't comfortable. It was heavy, like the calm before a tornado. The camera zoomed in. Every face at the table looked tense, caught between disbelief and awe. Joy straightened her posture, her tone dripping with contempt. "You think you're better than us because you wrap your opinions in country charm?" Reba didn't move, didn't even blink. Her voice came low and steady, sharp enough to cut through the noise. "No, Joy. I just remember when kindness wasn't a weakness." That line hit like a final warning. No shouting, no theatrics. Just quiet conviction. The air in the studio thickened. Joy's mouth opened, then closed again. She had a comeback ready, but for once, she couldn't find the words. Joy finally snapped. The mask of humor fell away, and her voice cut through the air, sharp and shaking. "You and your fans think patriotism gives you a free pass from progress," she shouted, jabbing a finger across the table. Reba stood, calm, deadly calm. Her hands didn't move, but her presence filled the space. "And you think mockery gives you a free pass from manners?" she said quietly. Every word landed like a bullet. No yelling, no theatrics, just precision. Joy's face went red. She tried to speak, but Reba didn't give her the chance. "You call it progress," she continued, "but all I see is people too proud to listen and too loud to care." The studio went silent, except for the faint hum of the cameras. Then, a chair scraped against the floor. Security shifted off screen. They could feel what was coming. Reba took one deliberate step closer, eyes locked on Joy. "You wanted a soundbite, Joy," she said, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Here it is. Decency still matters." The studio exploded. Cheers, shouts, gasps. Some stood, others just stared, mouths open. Joy froze, her smirk gone completely. Whoopi tried to speak, but her words drowned under the noise. Producers waved frantically. Reba didn't look back. She just stood there, unwavering, while chaos swirled around her. It wasn't shouting that broke the view that morning. It was composure, the kind that hits harder than anger. And in that moment, everyone watching knew they had just witnessed something raw, real, and unforgettable. Within hours, the clip swallowed the internet whole. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Every platform burned with the same 10 seconds of chaos. Hashtags flooded the feed. Hashtag Team Reba versus hashtag Stand With Joy. Everyone had an opinion, and no one agreed. Cable networks replayed the footage on loop. Conservative pundits called Reba the voice of forgotten America. Liberal hosts praised Joy for standing her ground. One headline read, "The Daytime Talk Implosion When Civility Walked Off Set." Memes exploded. Late-night shows joked about it. But beneath the noise, something deeper was happening. People weren't just debating a talk show fight anymore. They were arguing about who gets to be heard in America. Through it all, Reba stayed silent. No statements, no interviews, nothing. Her social media pages went dark, and the silence only made the fire burn hotter. Commentators filled in the blanks with theories. Was she ashamed, regretful, or planning something bigger? Then a week later, the waiting ended. A national primetime broadcast opened with a single chair, one microphone, and dim lighting. No audience, no laughter, no music, just Reba McEntire sitting center stage, her eyes steady, her voice calm. "I didn't explode," she said, looking straight into the lens. "I finally stopped pretending." She paused, letting the weight of that sentence hang there. "You don't have to scream to be heard," she continued softly. "You just have to mean it." It wasn't defiance, it was truth, spoken plain and steady. The kind that cuts through noise and lands where it hurts most, the conscience. By the time the segment ended, millions were silent. Some called it redemption, others called it rebellion. But everyone watching could feel it. Reba hadn't just defended herself, she had changed the conversation. The studio lights dimmed as the interview drew to its end. The host leaned forward, hesitant, almost afraid to ask what everyone at home was thinking. "Would you do it again?" he said quietly. Reba smiled, that same soft, steady smile that had carried her through the storm. "In a heartbeat," she replied. Then after a pause, her tone dropped to something gentler, almost reflective. "If honesty costs applause," she said, "I'll pay full price." The host didn't speak. He just nodded, because there wasn't much left to say. Over the next few days, Reba's words replayed everywhere, on morning news panels, late-night monologues, and every phone screen in between. Clips from her confrontation with Joy ran side by side with her interview, dissected by pundits, replayed by fans, and analyzed like a piece of American history. Cable hosts debated what it meant. Some called her fearless, others called her reckless. But one comment beneath a viral post said what millions were thinking. For once, daytime TV felt like real America. And maybe that was the point. In a world full of noise and outrage, Reba's quiet defiance reminded people that truth doesn't always have to shout. Sometimes it just has to stand. When the lights finally faded and the cameras stopped rolling, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a talk show clash. It was a cultural moment, a line that would be replayed, remembered, and argued about for years. Decency still mattered, and Reba McEntire had just proved it, live, in front of the whole country. And now it's your turn. Was Reba McEntire right to stand her ground, or did she push too far? Tell us what you think down in the comments. If this showdown made you feel something, that mix of pride, tension, and truth, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next story might just change how you see your favorite stars and the country they speak for.